I tighten my grip on my son's hand, the small bones of his fingers a fragile anchor in the swirling chaos of Midtown. Leo, all of 6 years old and bundled in a coat 2 sizes too big, looks up at me, his breath a tiny puff of white in the chilly November air. His brown eyes, so like his father's, are wide with a question I can't answer. Why are we just standing here, Mommy? I can't answer because the real reason is lodged in my throat like a shard of glass. We are waiting because I am a coward. We are waiting for the bus, the M42, which will take us back to our cramped apartment in a part of the city that doesn't glitter. The apartment where the landlord's latest notice is taped to the door, its red letters a screaming reminder of everything I am failing to do. Single moms like me, we learn the art of invisibility. We move through the canyons of New York City like ghosts, our struggles and our fears tucked away behind a polite, tired smile. You do not get involved. You do not make waves. You keep your head down and you protect your child. That is the only rule that matters. But I heard them, standing near the revolving doors of the D'Amato Tower, trying to shield Leo from the biting wind. I'd heard them. 2 men, built like brick walls in tailored suits, stood near the elevator bank. They thought their quiet conversation, their guttural Russian, made them invisible too. They thought they were speaking in code. They were wrong. My babushka, my grandmother, had filled my childhood with the sounds of her homeland, with stories and songs and angry, muttered curses. The language lives in my bones. And what these men were planning was not a song. The transport to the docks tonight, the one with a scar bisecting his eyebrow had murmured. Silvio is tired of waiting. It must look like an accident, a hijacking gone wrong. The other one, younger, with slicked-back blonde hair, had grunted. And D'Amato. He will be in the car, he is the point. My blood ran cold. It froze the marrow in my bones, colder than the wind whipping off the Hudson. I knew the name D'Amato. Everyone in New York knew it, even if they only spoke it in whispers. Marco D'Amato, a name that tasted of iron and money and fear, the head of the D'Amato crime family, a man who moved through the city like a king in a kingdom of shadows, and his own men were planning to kill him. The rulebook of my survival screams at me. Walk away, get on the bus, forget you heard anything. This is not your world. This is not your fight. Protecting Leo is all that matters. The revolving door spins, and he steps out. It's him. I know it instantly. The air changes, grows heavier, charged with a silent, lethal energy. He's taller than I expected, dressed in a black overcoat that seems to absorb the light around him. His hair is dark, his jaw sharp, and his face is a mask of severe, controlled calm. He doesn't walk. He proceeds, a force of nature that the city itself seems to bend around. The 2 Russian bodyguards fall into step behind him, their faces impassive. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs. Leo presses closer to my leg. This is it. The moment to turn, to blend into the crowd, to disappear. But I see the scar on the bodyguard's eyebrow. I hear the echo of his words. He is the point, and I do the single stupidest, most reckless thing of my life. I let go of Leo's hand for a fraction of a second, taking a single step forward, directly into the path of Marco D'Amato. He stops. The entire world seems to stop with him. His guards tense, hands moving inside their jackets, but he lifts a single finger, a minute, almost imperceptible gesture, and they freeze. His eyes find mine. They are dark, darker than night, and they don't just look at me, they dissect me. They peel back the layers of my worn-out coat, my threadbare courage, and my bone-deep fear, searching for my motive. My voice is a tremor, barely audible over the city's roar. Don't trust your bodyguards. His expression doesn't change, not a flicker of a muscle. But something in the intensity of his gaze deepens. He studies me like I am a complex equation he has to solve, a variable that has just appeared in his perfectly ordered world. The 2 Russians behind him have gone rigid. I don't dare look at them. My entire universe has narrowed to the space between me and this dangerous, beautiful man. His voice is low, a gravelly rumble that vibrates through the pavement. You understand Russian? I manage a single, jerky nod. My throat is too tight for words. My heart is trying to beat its way out of my chest. Because in that moment, Audrey Lawson, broke single mom, invisible woman, has just saved a Mafia boss from betrayal. And now his dark eyes are not leaving mine. He looks from my face down to the small boy clutching my coat, and for the first time, a flicker of something unreadable crosses his features. It's not surprise. It's not anger. It's something else, something that makes the hair on my arms stand up. "Julian," he says, his voice still quiet, but now laced with a command that cuts through steel. A third man, one I hadn't even noticed, materializes at his side. He's leaner than the others, with a quiet competence that is somehow more menacing. He is the one who was not part of the conversation, the loyal one. "Sir," Julian says, his eyes on Marco, completely ignoring me. "Take Dmitri and Ivan to the warehouse. I'll meet you there." Marco's tone is flat, devoid of emotion, but the two Russian guards exchange a look of pure, cold panic. They know what that means. They open their mouths to protest, but one look from Marco silences them. Julian gestures with his head, and they walk away with him, their shoulders stiff with the knowledge of their own doom. They look like dead men walking. And then it is just us. Me, my son, and the most feared man in New York City, standing on a crowded sidewalk that suddenly feels completely empty. "You and the boy," Marco D'Amato says, his gaze locking back onto mine. It's not a question. It's a statement. "You're coming with me." My protest dies before it can form. The word no is a foreign concept in the face of such absolute authority. He doesn't wait for my agreement. He simply turns and gestures toward a black sedan idling at the curb, a car so sleek and dark it looks like a panther waiting to pounce. Panic, cold and sharp, finally slices through my shock. "Wait, I can't. We can't. My son." "Your son is the reason you will get in the car," he says, not even looking back. He doesn't need to. The words hang in the air, a promise and a threat all in one. He knows, with an instinct I cannot fathom, that Leo is my pressure point. He is the only thing in the world that matters. And this man, this stranger, has understood that in less than a minute. I look down at Leo, who is staring at the fancy car with a mixture of fear and wonder. I look at the retreating backs of the men who were going to commit murder. I look at the imposing figure of Marco D'Amato holding the car door open. I have no choice. I never did. Not from the moment I opened my mouth. I scoop Leo into my arms, his small body trembling slightly. My own heart is a wild bird trapped in a cage. I murmur soothing words to him, lies about a new adventure, while my mind screams. As I slide into the buttery leather of the back seat, the scent of the car, clean, expensive, masculine, envelops me. Marco gets in beside me, the space suddenly shrinking, charged with his presence. The door closes with a solid final thud, sealing us in. Sealing me in. The car pulls silently away from the curb, gliding into the river of traffic. I stare out the tinted window at the city flashing by, a world I no longer belong to. I have stepped out of the stream of normal life and into a dark, dangerous current. I have no idea where we are going. I have no idea what he wants from me. I only know that I just traded one kind of desperation for another, and this new one wears a perfectly tailored suit and has the eyes of a predator. Leo has gone quiet in my lap. He's staring at Marco D'Amato with the unabashed curiosity of a child. Marco doesn't look at him. He stares straight ahead, his profile carved from stone. "What's your name?" he asks, the question directed at me, his voice a low counterpoint to the city's hum. "Audrey," I whisper. "Audrey Lawson." He gives a slight nod, as if filing the information away. "And the boy?" "Leo." My hold on my son tightens. "Audrey Lawson," he repeats, as if tasting the name. He finally turns his head, and his full attention is on me again. The intensity is suffocating. "You have made a very complicated decision today." I didn't think, I admit, my voice shaking. I just reacted. Reaction is a form of thought, he says. The most honest kind. You heard them planning to kill me. Instead of running, you warned me. Why? It's the question, isn't it? The one that will define whatever happens next. I could lie. I could invent a noble reason, a belief in justice. But looking into those eyes, I know a lie would be pointless and dangerous. Because they were talking about it like it was nothing, I say, the words raw. Like ordering a coffee. And because my son was standing right there. I don't want him to live in a world where people just let things like that happen. It's a half-truth. The other half is that I was terrified for myself, for what might happen if shooting started on a crowded street. But the part about Leo, that is the core of it. A long silence stretches between us. The car moves smoothly, effortlessly, through the snarl of traffic, as if the other cars are parting for it. You have put yourself in danger, Audrey Lawson, he says finally. The men you heard. They work for someone who will not be pleased that their plan failed. And they saw you. The cold dread I felt before is nothing compared to the icy terror that now floods my veins. They saw me. They saw Leo. What will happen to us? I ask, my voice barely a squeak. He looks at me, and his expression is unyielding. You saved my life. I do not leave debts unpaid. From this moment on, you and your son are under my protection. Protection. It sounds like a prison sentence. It sounds like ownership. I don't want your protection, I say, a spark of defiance flaring through the fear. I want to go home. Your home is no longer safe, he states, as if discussing the weather. The men I sent away are disposable. Their master is not. He will want to silence the loose end. You are the loose end. The car turns onto a private access road, heading toward the East River, toward a part of the skyline dominated by gleaming residential towers that scrape the clouds. We are not going to a warehouse. We are not going to some grimy mob hideout. We are going up. The car descends into a private underground garage, the gate closing behind us with an ominous boom. We are in a pristine, brightly lit space filled with cars that cost more than I will ever make in 10 lifetimes. Marco gets out and opens my door. He doesn't offer a hand. He simply waits. I get out, holding Leo close. He buries his face in my shoulder, overwhelmed. We are led to a private elevator. Marco presses a button with the letter P on it, and the doors slide shut. The ascent is fast and silent, my ears popping with the change in pressure. The doors open directly into a living space, and I forget to breathe. It's not an apartment. It's a kingdom in the sky. A 2-story wall of glass looks out over the entire city, the endless sprawl of lights twinkling like a fallen constellation. The floors are polished black marble. The furniture is stark and modern and impossibly elegant. A floating staircase of steel and glass leads to an upper level. The air is still and quiet, scented faintly with something clean and expensive, like sandalwood and citrus. This is his home, his cage, and now it is ours. You will stay here, Marco says, his voice echoing slightly in the vast space. You will be safe here. No one will find you. Safe. The word feels like a lie. I feel more exposed, more vulnerable than I ever have in my life. I am a mouse brought into the den of a lion. He may promise not to eat me, but I am still in his den. An older woman with silver hair pulled into a neat bun and a kind, weary face appears from a hallway. She wears a simple black dress. Mrs. Petrova, Marco says. This is Audrey and her son Leo. They will be our guests. Show them to the East Suite. See that they have everything they need. The woman, Mrs. Petrova, looks at me, then at Leo, and her eyes, though professional, hold a flicker of something like pity. Of course, Mr. D'Amato. She gives me a small, hesitant smile. This way, please. I follow her, my legs unsteady. I feel Marco's eyes on my back the entire way. I am walking deeper into the cage. The East Suite is larger than my entire apartment. It has a bedroom with a bed that looks like a cloud, a sitting room with its own view of the city, and a bathroom made of marble and chrome. It's beautiful and sterile and terrifying. If you or the boy need anything, you just let me know, Mrs. Petrova says softly, her accent a softer, more melodic version of the Russian I heard earlier. Ukrainian, maybe. Thank you, I managed to say. She lingers for a moment at the door. He is not what they say, she murmurs, so quietly I almost miss it. Then she is gone, closing the door softly behind her. I stand in the middle of the room, still clutching Leo. He finally lifts his head and looks around, his eyes wide. Wow, he whispers. Are we rich now, Mommy? A strangled laugh escapes my lips, half sob, half hysteria. No, baby, I say, sinking onto the edge of the enormous bed. We are very, very far from rich. I am a prisoner in a palace. My life, and my son's life, now belong to a man whose name is synonymous with death. And it's all because I broke the one rule that was supposed to keep us safe. I got involved. The first 24 hours are a study in surrealism. I feel like Alice after she fell down the rabbit hole, trying to make sense of a world that operates on a logic entirely alien to my own. Leo, with the beautiful adaptability of a child, is mostly fascinated. He discovers that the television in our sitting room is bigger than our couch at home and has access to every cartoon ever made. For him, this is paradise. For me, it is a beautifully appointed prison. I don't see Marco for the rest of the day. After Mrs. Petrova leaves us, a profound silence settles over the suite. It's a strange kind of quiet, not peaceful, but heavy, weighted. It's the quiet of a place where everything is monitored, where the very air seems to be listening. I explore our rooms, touching the cool, impersonal surfaces. I find a closet filled with clothes. Women's clothes, in my size. Simple, elegant things in shades of gray, cream, and black. Jeans, cashmere sweaters, a few simple dresses. There are even new, unopened packages of underwear and socks. The discovery sends a chill through me. It's a sign of his terrifying efficiency, his foresight. He had someone buy these clothes in the hour it took us to get here. He anticipated my needs, my very size, and provided for them before I even knew I had them. It's meant as a kindness, I suppose, a form of care. But it feels like another bar on the cage. It says, you have no need to leave. Everything you require is here. In the bathroom, there are toiletries, expensive brands I've only ever seen in magazines. I take a shower, washing away the grime of the city and the lingering scent of fear. I change into a soft gray sweater and a pair of black jeans. They fit perfectly. I look at myself in the mirror. I look like a different person. A woman who belongs in a place like this. It's a costume. A lie. Beneath the cashmere, I am still Audrey Lawson, the woman whose bank account is overdrawn and whose heart is hammering with anxiety. Mrs. Petrova brings us dinner on a tray. Simple roasted chicken, potatoes, and green beans. It's delicious, but I can barely eat. Leo, however, devours his food. This is better than your chicken, Mommy, he says cheerfully. I know, sweetie, I say, managing a weak smile. After dinner, I tuck him into the vast bed. He's asleep in minutes, lost to the world, his small face peaceful against the impossibly high thread count sheets. I sit in a chair by the window, watching the city lights. The view is mesmerizing. From up here, the city looks like a jewel box, perfect and silent. You can't see the struggle. You can't hear the sirens. You can't feel the desperation. It's a sterile, beautiful illusion, just like my safety. I must have fallen asleep in the chair because I wake with a start to the sound of the suite door opening. Marco D'Amato stands in the doorway. He's shed his overcoat and suit jacket, and he's in a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms, revealing strong, tanned skin and a glimpse of a dark, intricate tattoo. He looks tired. There are faint lines of strain around his eyes that weren't there this afternoon. My entire body goes rigid. I stand up slowly, placing myself between him and the bed where Leo is sleeping. It's a pointless, instinctual gesture. "He's asleep," I say, my voice a harsh whisper. He nods, his eyes flicking to the small lump under the duvet and then back to me. He doesn't step further into the room. "Mrs. Petrova said you didn't eat much." "I wasn't hungry." He studies me for a long moment, his gaze as intense as ever. "I had my men look into you, Audrey Lawson." Of course he did. The chill returns, deeper this time. He has been peeling back the layers of my life while I've been sitting here in this cage. "You are 29 years old," he continues, his voice a low monotone. "You work part-time as a freelance translator, mostly for small import-export businesses, not enough to live on. Your husband, David Lawson, a staff sergeant in the army, was killed in Afghanistan 3 years ago. You have no family in the city. Your parents are deceased. Your only living relative is a grandmother in a nursing home in Queens. You are 2 months behind on your rent." He recites the sad, pathetic summary of my life as if he's reading a grocery list. Each fact is a small pinprick, a reminder of my failure, my vulnerability. Tears prick at the back of my eyes, hot and angry. "Is there a point to this?" I ask, my voice tight. "The point," he says, taking a step into the room now, "is that you have nothing. You are in debt. You are alone. A person in your position might be tempted by a large sum of money to, for example, set someone up, to create a distraction." The accusation hangs in the air, ugly and sharp. He thinks I was part of it. He thinks I was paid to play the hero. The anger that has been simmering inside me finally boils over. "You think I would do that?" I hiss, taking a step toward him. "You think I would put my son in the middle of a Mafia hit for money?" "Money makes people do desperate things," he says calmly, his eyes never leaving mine. "You don't know anything about me," I spit, the words laced with a fury I didn't know I possessed. "You can read a file, you can find out where I live and how much I owe, but you don't know me. You don't know what it's like to count every penny, to lie awake at night wondering how you're going to buy groceries. And you sure as hell don't know that I would rather die than put Leo in danger. I warned you because it was the right thing to do. It was a stupid, impulsive, world-destroyingly idiotic thing to do, but it was right. And if that's too complicated for your paranoid, cynical worldview, then that is your problem, not mine." I'm breathing heavily, my hands clenched into fists. I've just yelled at Marco D'Amato. The realization hits me a second too late, and a wave of fear washes away the anger. He just watches me. His face is unreadable, a mask of stone. I expect him to be angry, to call his guards, to do something. But he doesn't. He just watches me, and a strange, almost imperceptible shift happens in his eyes. The hard suspicion softens just a fraction, replaced by something I can't name. Curiosity, maybe, or something else. "The men," he says finally, his voice even quieter than before. "Dmitri and Ivan. They talked before they died. They confirmed your story. They were hired by a rival. They didn't know who. The order came through a cutout. Before they died. The words are so casual, so chilling. He had them killed. Just like that. I feel sick." "So you believe me," I say, the words tasting like ash. "I believe that you were not part of their plan," he concedes, "which makes you a witness, an even bigger liability to my enemy." He takes another step closer. We are only a few feet apart now. I can smell the faint scent of sandalwood and something else, something uniquely him. It's intoxicating and terrifying. "So the arrangement stands," he says. "You will stay here. You and the boy will be safe. I give you my word." "The word of a man who just had 2 people killed?" I shoot back, unable to stop myself. A flicker of something, annoyance, crosses his face. "The word of a man who understands the consequences of betrayal. They chose their path. You chose yours when you stepped in front of me." He looks past me to the bed, to the sleeping form of my son. He is safe, Audrey, he says, his voice softening almost imperceptibly. Here, no one can touch him. Is that not what you want? He has me. He knows he has me. He is holding the one thing I cannot, will not, risk. I deflate, all the fight going out of me. I wrap my arms around myself, a feeble defense against him, against this whole situation. What do you want from me? I whisper. Why are you really keeping me here? For now, I am keeping you here because you are a loose end I need to control, he says, his honesty brutal. And because, as I said, I do not leave debts unpaid. You saved my life. I will save yours. It is a simple transaction. But it doesn't feel simple. It feels impossibly complicated. He turns to leave, pausing in the doorway. Get some sleep, Audrey, he says. Tomorrow, we will talk about what you heard. Every word, every intonation. You are no longer just a translator of documents. You are my translator of whispers. And then he is gone, the door closing with a soft click, leaving me alone in the silence, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against the bars of my beautiful new cage. The days that follow fall into a strange, dislocated rhythm. Life in the penthouse is governed by a quiet, unyielding routine. Mrs. Petrova brings our meals. She is a silent, comforting presence, her kindness a small pocket of warmth in the cold luxury of the apartment. She speaks to Leo in her soft Ukrainian, and he, surprisingly, seems to understand her gentle tone, responding in his own childish English. They form a small, unspoken bond. I see Marco only in the evenings. He appears after Leo is asleep, a dark specter in his own home. Our conversations are less like conversations and more like interrogations. He makes me repeat the Russian words I overheard again and again. Silvio is tired of waiting. Are you sure? He asks for the 10th time, his eyes boring into me. It was Silvio, not Sergei or Semyon. I'm sure, I say, my voice flat with exhaustion. It's a common enough name, but the pronunciation was clear. Silvio. He paces the vast living room, a caged panther in his own territory. The city lights glitter behind him, a backdrop of stolen stars. And the rest? An accident, a hijacking gone wrong. Yes, that's what he said. He stops pacing and looks at me. This name, Silvio, it means something to me. It is a ghost. There's a note in his voice I haven't heard before. Something deeper than anger or suspicion. It sounds like old pain. I am a translator of whispers, he'd said, and I am beginning to hear the whispers in his own voice, the things he doesn't say. But I don't ask. I don't dare. The boundaries between us are clearly defined. I am his asset, his tool, the woman who holds a single, vital clue. One afternoon, seeking a brief escape from the confines of our suite, I take Leo to explore the lower level of the penthouse. We find a library. It's not just a room with books. It's a sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling shelves of dark wood filled with leather-bound volumes. A rolling ladder. 2 deep armchairs by a fireplace that, surprisingly, is lit, the flames crackling softly. The air smells of old paper, leather, and wood smoke. It's the first place in this apartment that feels real, that feels lived in. Leo, delighted, immediately finds a large picture book about castles and settles on the thick rug in front of the fire. I run my fingers along the spines of the books. They are classics, in multiple languages. Russian, Italian, English, French. I pull out a copy of Anna Karenina in its original Russian. The binding is worn, the pages soft with use. He is a man of many contradictions. I jump, startled, and turn to see Mrs. Petrova standing in the doorway, a tray with tea and cookies in her hands. I'm sorry, I say, quickly shelving the book. We were just exploring. I hope it's okay. Of course, it is okay, she says, her smile reaching her weary eyes. He would be pleased. No one has used this room in a very long time. She places the tray on a low table. He learned Russian in this room. His mother, she insisted. This small piece of personal information is like a key turning in a lock I didn't know existed. Marco D'Amato, the Mafia boss, learning Russian at his mother's knee. His mother was Russian? I ask, my curiosity getting the better of me. Mrs. Petrova nods, her expression softening with memory. From St. Petersburg, a ballerina. She was like a song in this house. So much light. After she was gone, the music stopped. She looks at me, a long, searching look. You have kind eyes. Like she did. The comparison is unsettling. I am nothing like a ballerina. I am a survivor, all sharp edges and practicality. I should go, I say, feeling like I'm intruding on a private grief. Stay, she says, gesturing to the tea. The boy is happy. You should have a moment of peace. So I stay. I pour a cup of tea, and we sit in a comfortable silence, watching Leo and the fire. The quiet in this room is different. It's a peaceful quiet, a safe quiet. For a few minutes, I almost forget where I am. I almost feel normal. The illusion is shattered a few days later. I am in our suite, trying to devise a new game for Leo to stave off his growing restlessness, when the main door to the penthouse opens and closes, followed by the sound of an unfamiliar voice. A woman's voice, sharp, musical, and dripping with disdain. Marco, darling, you cannot keep ignoring my calls. It's simply rude. And who is redecorating? This minimalist nonsense is so bleak. My blood runs cold. I motion for Leo to be quiet, my heart starting to pound. I creep to the door of our suite and crack it open just enough to see. A woman stands in the center of the living room, stripping off a pair of long leather gloves. She is breathtakingly beautiful, in the way a venomous flower is beautiful. Tall and slender, with fiery red hair cascading over the shoulders of a pristine white coat. Her face is a perfect oval, her lips painted a slash of defiant red. She looks like she was born to stand in rooms like this. Marco is there, his back to me. He stands with a rigid stillness that I am beginning to recognize as a sign of extreme displeasure. Isabella, he says, his voice dangerously low. This is not a good time. It's never a good time with you, Marco, she purrs, tossing her gloves onto a chair. Always so serious. Business, business, business. I thought I'd bring the party to you. She saunters toward him, her hips swaying. Your uncle is hosting a gala for the Children's Fund. He was very insistent that you come. It would look bad if you didn't. My breath catches in my throat. Uncle. Could it be? The name from the whisper. Silvio. I am not going, Marco says flatly. Don't be difficult. Isabella pouts, running a manicured finger down his chest. He doesn't flinch, but I can see the tension in his shoulders. Silvio is family. You have to make an appearance. For your father's memory, if nothing else. The mention of his father makes him go even more still. Then, her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, catch a flicker of movement. Me. In the doorway. Her perfectly plucked eyebrows rise in amusement. Well, well, she says, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness. What do we have here? Marco, you didn't tell me you'd picked up a stray. She pushes past him and walks directly toward my door. I instinctively try to close it, but she's too fast. She pushes it open, revealing me and Leo, who is peeking out from behind my legs. Isabella looks me up and down, her gaze dismissive, cataloging my simple sweater and jeans, my lack of makeup, my terrified expression. She smiles, a slow, cruel smile. Oh, I see, she says. You found yourself a little charity case. How noble. Does she have a sob story? They always have a sob story. She leans in, her expensive perfume cloying and aggressive. A word of advice, little mouse. Whatever he's promised you, it's a lie. He gets bored easily, and he always, always comes back to me. My face burns with humiliation. I want to shrink away, to disappear. But then I feel Leo's small hand clutch my leg, and a different instinct takes over. The protective instinct of a mother. I lift my chin and meet her venomous gaze. I think you should leave, I say, my voice surprisingly steady. Her eyes widen in mock surprise, then narrow into slits. Did it just squeak? Isabella. Marco's voice is like the crack of a whip. He has moved to stand right behind her. He is not touching her, but the menace rolling off him is a physical force. That is enough, he says. She turns to face him, her bravado faltering for the first time. Marco, I was just... You were just leaving. He finishes for her, his voice devoid of all warmth. He takes her by the arm, his grip firm. It's not violent, but it's non-negotiable. He propels her toward the elevator. You can't just throw me out, she sputters, her beautiful face contorted with rage. After everything, my family is allied with yours. Your uncle. Your alliance is a business arrangement, nothing more, Marco says coldly, pressing the button for the elevator. And you will not speak of my uncle in this house. Ever. Now get out. The elevator doors slide open. He all but pushes her inside. Her furious, hate-filled glare is the last thing I see before the doors close, cutting her off. Silence descends once more. A heavy, ringing silence. Marco stands with his back to me for a long moment, his shoulders rigid. He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture of profound frustration. When he finally turns around, his face is a grim mask. He walks over to me, stopping a few feet away. His eyes are dark and stormy. I'm sorry you had to see that, he says, his voice tight. Is she... I can't bring myself to finish the question. She is the daughter of a business associate, he says dismissively, and she is no longer welcome here. He looks down at Leo, who is still hiding behind me. A muscle in his jaw tightens. She should not have seen you, or the boy. The implication is clear. I am a secret, a liability that has just been exposed. Her uncle, I say, my mind racing. Is his name Silvio? Marco's eyes snap to mine, sharp and dangerous. How do you know that? She said it. Silvio is family. It's the name I heard, Marco. I'm sure of it. He stares at me, the pieces clicking into place behind his eyes. The rival who hired the guards, the one who wants him dead, is his own uncle, the ghost he spoke of. He lets out a long, slow breath, and for the first time, I see a crack in his armor of control. I see a flash of raw, unguarded pain. It's the look of a man who has been betrayed before and is facing the specter of it all over again. My father's brother, he says, his voice rough with an emotion I can't decipher. He always believed my father stole the family business from him. In that moment, he is not Marco D'Amato, the Mafia boss. He is just a man, haunted by the ghosts of his own family. And my heart, against all reason, goes out to him. I see the weight he carries, the crushing burden of his name and his world. He seems to realize he has revealed too much. The mask slams back into place. The vulnerability is gone, replaced by cold resolve. This changes things, he says. The threat is not external. It's internal. It's closer than I thought. He looks at me, and his gaze is different now. It's no longer just the gaze of a man assessing an asset. There's something else there, a shared knowledge, a shared danger. You did well, he says, the words quiet but clear. You did not back down. The unexpected praise sends a strange warmth through me. It's ridiculous. I should not care what this man thinks of me. But I do. He turns and walks to the wall of windows, staring out at the city as if searching for answers in the endless grid of lights. I am left standing in the doorway, my son clinging to my leg, my world shrinking and expanding all at once. The invisible line between us has been crossed. I am no longer just a witness. I am a participant, and the danger feels more real, more personal than ever before. The confrontation with Isabella leaves an ugly residue in the air of the penthouse. The threat is no longer an abstract concept. It has a name, Silvio, and a face, the venomous smile of his ally. The gilded cage feels smaller, the bars colder. Marco becomes even more withdrawn, a ghost of steel and shadow haunting the periphery of my days. He is often on the phone, his conversations clipped and spoken in rapid-fire Italian. I don't need to be a translator to understand the tone. It is the sound of a king preparing for war. A storm rolls into the city a few nights later. It's a monster of a storm, a true nor'easter that throws sheets of rain against the glass walls of the penthouse with the force of thrown gravel. The wind howls, a mournful, angry sound that seems to seep through the seals of the windows. The sky is a roiling mass of black and gray, lit only by sudden, brilliant flashes of lightning that bleach the world white for a split second. Leo is terrified. He's normally a sound sleeper, but the violent crashes of thunder jolt him awake, his small body trembling. I hold him close in the massive bed, singing the same lullabies my babushka sang to me, but my soft words are no match for the fury of the sky. "It's too loud, Mommy," he whimpers, burying his face in my neck. "I know, baby. It's just noise. It can't hurt us up here," I say, trying to inject a confidence I don't feel into my voice. We are in a glass box at the top of the world. It feels like the most vulnerable place to be. Then, with a final deafening crack of thunder that seems to shake the very foundations of the building, the lights flicker and die. We are plunged into absolute darkness. The emergency lights, thin strips along the floor, kick in a moment later, casting long, eerie shadows. But the main power is gone. The hum of the ventilation system, the quiet electronic pulse of the apartment, everything is gone. The only sound is the screaming wind and the rain and Leo's terrified sobs. "Mommy, I'm scared." "Shh, shh, I'm right here," I whisper, my own heart racing. The sudden, profound darkness is disorienting. The door to our suite opens, and a beam of a flashlight cuts through the gloom. I flinch, shielding Leo's eyes. "It's just me." Marco's voice comes from behind the light. The building's main generator was struck. The backup is offline for the whole tower. He walks into the room, his form a tall silhouette. He's holding a heavy-duty flashlight in one hand and two smaller ones in the other. He places the smaller ones on the nightstand. "Here," he says. "These should last for a while." He keeps the main beam pointed at the floor, careful not to shine it in our faces. In the reflected glow, I can see his face. He looks calm, but his jaw is tight. Even a power outage is a security risk in his world, a vulnerability. Leo, seeing him, quiets a little, his sobs subsiding into hiccuping breaths. He peeks out from my arms. "It's dark," Leo says, a statement of the obvious that sounds profound in the charged silence. "I know," Marco says, his voice surprisingly gentle. He crouches down so he's closer to eye level with the bed. "But it's nothing to be afraid of. Sometimes the dark is just the dark." Another crash of thunder, closer this time, makes Leo jump and cry out again. Marco hesitates for a fraction of a second. Then he does something that completely undoes me. He reaches out and rests his hand on Leo's back, over the blanket. His hand is large and warm, a solid, reassuring weight. "When I was a boy," Marco says, his voice a low rumble, "my brother and I were afraid of storms. My mother, she would tell us that the thunder was just the sky rearranging its furniture." The image is so simple, so domestic. It's a startling crack in his formidable facade. I stare at him, at his hand on my son's back, and I see not the Mafia boss, but the boy who was once afraid of storms. Leo seems to sense the shift too. He relaxes slightly under Marco's hand. "Rearranging furniture?" he asks, his voice muffled. "That's right," Marco says. "Moving the big chairs around makes a lot of noise." A faint smile touches Leo's lips. He turns his head to look at Marco properly. "Is that really true?" "It's what my mother told me," Marco says. "And she was very smart." He leaves his hand there for a long moment. The warmth of it seems to spread through the blankets, through Leo, all the way to me. It's an anchor in the storm, a small point of stillness in the chaos. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I feel a flicker of something other than fear in his presence. It feels dangerously close to safety. He eventually withdraws his hand and stands up. The building engineers say it could be hours. I'll be in the living room if you need anything. He turns to go, but I find my voice. Marco, wait. He stops in the doorway, turning back. Thank you, I say softly. He just gives a slight nod, his expression unreadable in the dim light, and then he's gone. Leo is much calmer now. The story about the sky's furniture seems to have worked its magic. He's still awake, but he's not crying. He's just watching the lightning flashes, which are now more distant. I know I won't be able to sleep. The encounter has left me wired, my mind racing. I slip out of bed, careful not to disturb Leo, and take one of the flashlights. I quietly make my way out of the suite and into the main living area. The view is apocalyptic and beautiful. The city is a dark shadow of itself, with only a few buildings here and there showing lights from their own generators. The storm is a wild, elemental force, and we are silent observers in our glass tower. Marco is standing by the window, a glass of something dark in his hand. He's just a silhouette against the flashes of lightning. He's asleep? He asks without turning around. Almost, I say, walking to stand a few feet away from him. That was kind, what you did. He is a child. He was scared, he says, as if it's the simplest thing in the world. Still, thank you. We stand in silence for a while, watching the storm. The shared confinement, the darkness, the raw power of nature outside. It dissolves the carefully constructed barriers between us. The roles of captor and captive, protector and protected, they seem to blur. You mentioned your brother, I say, the words coming out before I can stop them. It's a transgression, a step into his private territory. He stiffens. I expect him to shut me down, to retreat back into his fortress of silence. But he doesn't. He takes a slow sip from his glass. I did, he says, his voice flat. I wait. The howling of the wind fills the silence. His name was Matteo, he says finally, his voice rough. He was younger than me. He was the good one. He wanted to be a doctor. He had no interest in the family business. He turns from the window to face me. In the dim, ambient light from the emergency strips, his face is all shadows and harsh angles, but his eyes hold a profound, ancient sadness. My uncle Silvio, he saw Matteo as weak, a liability. My father protected him, always intended for him to have a life outside of this. He gestures vaguely at the opulent room at the city below. But when my father died, the protection was gone. Another flash of lightning illuminates his face, and I see the raw pain etched there. Silvio arranged an accident, he continues, his voice laced with a bitterness so deep it's chilling. A car bomb. It was meant for me. I was supposed to be driving. But Matteo, he borrowed my car that night to go see his girlfriend. He never made it. The story hangs in the dark air between us, heavy and suffocating. The ghost he spoke of wasn't just a rival. It was the murderer of his brother. The betrayal wasn't just business. It was the deepest kind of fratricide. The plan I overheard wasn't a new one. It was a repeat of history. I'm so sorry, I whisper, the words feeling pitifully inadequate. It was a long time ago, he says, turning back to the window. But his voice betrays him. The pain is not in the past. It lives in him, a constant cold companion. It's the reason for his control, his paranoia, his ruthlessness. It's the core of the man. He's trying to do it again, I say softly. To you. He won't succeed, Marco says, his voice hardening into the steel I'm used to. Not this time. In this moment, sharing this terrible, vulnerable secret in the storm-tossed darkness, something profound shifts between us. I no longer see him as just a monster or a captor. I see the wounded man underneath. The boy who lost his brother, the son who lost his mother, the man forged in betrayal and grief. My fear of him, which has been a constant hum beneath the surface of my existence, is being replaced by something far more complex and dangerous. understanding. And with understanding comes a terrifying sliver of empathy. I feel an inexplicable urge to reach out, to touch his arm, to offer some small, human comfort. But I don't. The chasm between our worlds is still too wide. But he must sense it, because he turns his head and looks at me. Really looks at me. His dark eyes search my face in the gloom, and for the first time, I don't feel like he's dissecting me. I feel like he's seeing me. The storm rages on outside, but inside the dark penthouse, the air is still and charged with unspoken things. The barriers have been broken, the dynamics have shifted. And I know, with a terrifying certainty, that nothing will ever be the same between us again. The storm breaks just before dawn. The rain softens to a drizzle, and a bruised purple light begins to seep into the sky over Queens. The power is still out. The penthouse is quiet, wrapped in a strange, liminal peace. Leo is fast asleep, the terrors of the night forgotten. I never went back to my room. Marco and I remained in the living area, two solitary figures in the vast, dark space. We didn't talk much more. His confession about his brother hung in the air, a raw, open wound that needed no further words. We just shared the silence, watching the city slowly reappear from the darkness. It was the most strangely intimate experience of my life. Now, in the growing light, he stands by the window, his back to me. The tension from the night, from his revelation, is still a palpable thing between us. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. One step could send me falling. I should retreat. Go back to my suite, hide behind the role of the protected witness. It's the safe thing to do. But I find I can't. Something has been irrevocably altered. The fear is still there, a low thrum of self-preservation, but it's tangled up with a fierce, confusing knot of curiosity and a pull I don't want to name. The city looks clean, I say, my voice quiet in the stillness. Washed. He turns his head, his profile stark against the pale morning sky. It's an illusion. The dirt is still there. It's just been pushed into the gutters. His cynicism is a familiar armor, one he's pulling back on with the rising sun. But I saw the cracks. I know what's underneath. He turns fully to face me. His eyes are shadowed with exhaustion, but they are clear, and they are fixed on me with an unnerving intensity. "Audrey," he says, and the sound of my name in his mouth is different now. It's not an accusation or a label, it's just my name. He takes a step toward me, and another. He stops when he is only an arm's length away. The space between us crackles with unspoken energy. I can feel the heat radiating from him. My heart starts to pound, a slow, heavy rhythm this time, not from fear, but from anticipation. "Last night," he begins, his voice low and rough. "I have not spoken of my brother to anyone in a decade." "Why me?" I whisper, the question hanging in the air. "I don't know," he admits, and the honesty in those 3 words is more disarming than any threat could be. He lifts his hand, slowly, as if giving me time to pull away. He doesn't touch me, not yet. He just hovers his hand near my face. "Perhaps because you are not a part of this world, you look at me and you do not see a name or a title. You see a man." Am I? Or am I just seeing what I want to see? A flicker of humanity in the monster, to make my situation more bearable. His fingers brush against my cheek, a touch so light it's barely there. A jolt, sharp and electric, shoots through me. My breath catches in my throat. His thumb traces the line of my jaw, and my eyes flutter closed. It's a gesture of such unexpected tenderness that it unravels me. This is insane. This is Marco D'Amato, a killer, my captor, a man whose world is built on violence and fear. I should pull away, I should run. But I don't. I lean into his touch, a traitorous, involuntary movement. His eyes darken, the pupils dilating. He sees my surrender. He sees the conflict in my eyes. And he closes the remaining distance between us. He lowers his head, and for a heart-stopping moment, I think he's going to speak again. But he doesn't. His lips meet mine. It's not a gentle kiss. It's a kiss of desperation, of suppressed grief and pent-up loneliness. It is the storm that just passed, all lightning and thunder and raw, elemental force. It's fierce and demanding, and I meet it with a desperation of my own. I cling to him, my hands gripping his shirt, as if he is the only solid thing in a world that has tilted off its axis. All the fear, the anxiety, the confusion of the past week culminates in this one reckless act. He tastes of whiskey and sorrow and a power so absolute it's terrifying. And I can't get enough. He deepens the kiss, one hand moving to the small of my back, pulling me flush against him. I can feel the hard, unyielding muscles of his chest, the frantic beat of his heart against mine. Or maybe it's my own. I can't tell where I end and he begins. This is madness, Stockholm Syndrome, a desperate grasp for connection in an impossible situation. I know all the clinical terms, but they are just words, and this is a feeling, a tidal wave of feeling that drowns out all reason. He breaks the kiss, resting his forehead against mine. We are both breathing heavily, the sound harsh in the quiet room. His eyes are closed. "Audrey," he breathes, his voice ragged. I open my eyes and look at him. The mask is gone. Completely. In its place is a raw vulnerability that mirrors my own. The powerful, untouchable Marco D'Amato looks undone. And it's my fault. I did this. The realization is both terrifying and exhilarating. The power dynamic, which has been so skewed, has just shifted on its axis. The lights flicker on. The sudden return of electricity is a harsh intrusion. The hum of the building comes back to life. The moment is shattered. We spring apart as if burned. He takes a step back, running a hand over his face, the mask of the dawn sliding back into place, but it's ill-fitting now. I can see the cracks. I wrap my arms around myself, feeling exposed and shaky. My lips tingle. My entire body is alive with a fire I haven't felt in years, if ever. I start, but I don't know what to say. I apologize. I pretend it didn't happen. "This was a mistake," he says, his voice flat and remote, but I can hear the strain in it. He's rebuilding his walls, brick by painful brick. "Was it?" I challenge, finding a sliver of courage. He looks at me, and his eyes are a vortex of conflict. "I am not a good man, Audrey. You see a flicker of something human in me, and you want to believe that is all I am. It is not. The rest of what I am will destroy you. Maybe you should let me be the judge of that," I say softly. A muscle feathers in his jaw. He looks from my face to the hallway leading to my suite, where my son is sleeping, and his expression hardens. "No," he says, the word a final, heavy stone. "My judgment is the only one that matters in this house. This will not happen again." He turns on his heel and strides away, leaving me standing alone in the bright, unforgiving light of morning. The warmth of his touch is already fading, replaced by a cold, aching confusion. I retreat to my room, my mind in a tailspin. He's right. It was a mistake. A dangerous, foolish mistake. But it was also the most real thing that has happened to me since I stepped into his world. The kiss has changed everything. The original arrangement, his protection for my information, feels like a flimsy pretext now. This is personal. Deeply, terrifyingly personal. I look at my reflection in the dark screen of the television. The woman staring back at me is a stranger. Her eyes are wide and haunted, her lips slightly swollen. She looks like a woman who just kissed a ghost, a monster, a king. I touch my lips, and I can still feel him. The taste of whiskey and sorrow. He says it will not happen again. But we both know that's a lie. A line has been crossed. A fire has been lit in the dark. And we both know it's only a matter of time before it consumes us both. In the days following the storm and the kiss, the atmosphere in the penthouse becomes thick with unspoken tension. Marco avoids me. He reverts to being a phantom, a presence I feel but rarely see. When our paths do cross, in the vast expanse of the living room or in a hallway, the air crackles. He is polite, cold, and distant. His eyes, which had held such raw vulnerability, are once again shuttered, guarded. He has rebuilt his fortress, and the message is clear. I am not welcome inside. But it's too late. I have seen what's inside. I have tasted it. And his coldness doesn't extinguish the fire. It only makes me more aware of the heat that lies beneath. I find myself watching for him, listening for the sound of his footsteps. My body is a traitor, humming with a low-grade awareness of him at all times. I try to focus on Leo, on creating a semblance of normalcy for him in this most abnormal of situations. We spend hours in the library, which has become our sanctuary. I read to him, we build forts out of cushions, and I try to answer his endless questions about when we can go back to our own apartment, when he can see his friends. Soon, baby, I lie, the word tasting like poison. Very soon. One afternoon, Mrs. Petrova finds me staring out the window, lost in thought. She sets a cup of tea down beside me, without a word. "He is a difficult man," she says, her voice gentle. She doesn't need to ask what's wrong. She sees everything in this silent house. "He's complicated," I say, choosing my words carefully. "He has built high walls to protect a broken heart," she says, her gaze distant. "First his mother, then Matteo. And his father. His father was a good man, but a hard man. He taught Marco that love is a liability, a weakness an enemy can exploit." She looks at me, her eyes kind but piercing. "He is afraid of you, you know." I almost laugh. "Afraid of me? He's Marco D'Amato. I'm nobody." "You are not nobody," she says firmly. "You are a good mother. You are honest. You are brave. You are everything this world is not. You are a weakness he cannot afford and, I think, does not want to live without." Her words hang in the air, a shocking, terrifying possibility. My quiet, tense existence is shattered a week later. Julian, Marco's silent, ever-present head of security, appears at the door of my suite. It's the first time he has ever approached me directly. "Miss Lawson," he says, his face impassive as always. "Mr. D'Amato thinks it would be good for you and the boy to get some fresh air. Central Park. I will be accompanying you." The offer of freedom, even a supervised, temporary freedom, is so unexpected I'm momentarily speechless. "The park? Is it safe?" "We will make it so," he says simply. An hour later, I'm bundling a deliriously happy Leo into his coat. The thought of being outside, of feeling the sun on my face and grass under my feet, is intoxicating. But a knot of anxiety tightens in my stomach. Why now? Marco has been adamant that we remain hidden. This feels like a test, or a trap. The trip to the park is a military operation. We take a nondescript SUV, not the sleek panther of a sedan. Julian drives, and another man, equally stoic and well-built, sits in the passenger seat. They scan the streets, their eyes constantly moving. But once we are in the park, near the carousel, the tension seems to ease. The park is alive with the cheerful noise of a Saturday afternoon. Children laughing, dogs barking, the distant sound of a saxophone. It feels like another world, a world I used to belong to. Leo is ecstatic. He runs, he shouts, he points at everything. For the first time in weeks, he is just a normal 6-year-old boy. Watching him, my heart aches with a fierce, protective love. This is what I'm fighting for, this joy, this freedom. Julian and his partner, whose name I learn is Nico, keep a discreet distance, blending into the crowd of parents and tourists. They give us space, but their eyes are never off us. I try to relax, to enjoy the moment, but the feeling of being watched is a constant pressure at the back of my neck. We buy hot pretzels from a vendor. Leo gets mustard all over his face, and I laugh, a real, genuine laugh. It feels rusty, and then I see him. Across the path, leaning against a tree, a man in a drab brown jacket, a newspaper held up in front of his face. But he's not reading it. His eyes are visible over the top of the paper, and they are fixed on us. On Leo. There is a cold, reptilian stillness about him that does not belong here, amidst the laughter and the joy. My blood turns to ice. I act on pure instinct. I drop to my knees in front of Leo, pretending to fix his scarf, using my body to shield him. "Julian," I say into the tiny, almost invisible earpiece he had insisted I wear. My voice is a choked whisper. "Man, brown jacket, by the oak tree at 3:00. He's watching us." There is no verbal response, but I see Julian, who had been casually leaning against a bench, straighten up. His hand goes to his side. Nico, who was pretending to look at his phone, starts to move in a wide, flanking arc. The man seems to sense the shift. The newspaper lowers. Our eyes meet for a split second across the distance. His are empty, devoid of all emotion. He knows I've seen him. He turns and begins to walk away, not running, but moving with a brisk, purposeful stride, melting into the crowd. "He's moving," I whisper into the mic. "Toward the west exit." "Stay with the boy," Julian's voice says in my ear, calm and clipped. "Nico has him." I see Nico shadowing the man, keeping pace, talking quietly into his own wrist. Julian is suddenly beside me. "Time to go," he says, his voice low and urgent. He scoops up a protesting Leo. "It's a new game, kid. We have to get back to the car before the bad guys catch us." Leo, thinking it's a game, laughs. My own heart is about to beat out of my chest. We move quickly, almost running, back the way we came. People stare at us, a woman being hustled along by a grim-faced man carrying her child. We get back to the SUV, and Julian practically shoves us into the back, jumping into the driver's seat. The tires squeal as we pull away from the curb. "They had a team," Julian says, his eyes on the rearview mirror. "Nico spotted 2 others. They were trying to box us in, to grab the boy." To grab the boy. The words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I pull Leo onto my lap and hold him so tightly he squirms. They weren't watching me. They were targeting my son. They were going to take him, to get to Marco. The rage that fills me is a white-hot, blinding force. It eclipses the fear. It burns away the confusion. They tried to use my son, my baby. By the time we get back to the penthouse, I am shaking, but not from fear, from fury. We burst out of the elevator, and Marco is there, waiting. He must have been listening in. His face is a thundercloud, darker and more dangerous than any storm. He takes one look at my face, at Leo, safe in my arms, and his entire body goes rigid with a lethal stillness. "What happened?" he demands, his voice a low growl. "They were there," I say, my voice trembling with rage. "They were waiting. They were going to take him, Marco. They were going to take Leo." He looks at Leo, who is now looking scared and confused, picking up on the adult tension. Then he looks at me. He sees the terror and the fury in my eyes. He reaches out and places a hand on Leo's head, a gesture that is both proprietary and fiercely protective. "Go to your room, Leo," he says, his voice softer but still strained. "Mrs. Petrova has a surprise for you." Mrs. Petrova appears as if summoned, her face pale, and gently coaxes a reluctant Leo away. The moment he is gone, Marco turns to me. "Tell me everything." I recount what happened, my voice shaking. The man with the newspaper, the empty eyes, the realization that they were after Leo. As I speak, I see the change in him. His controlled anger solidifies into something colder, harder, and infinitely more deadly. It's the look of a man who has just had his final line crossed. "My uncle," he says, the words like chips of ice. "He knows. He knows the boy is your weakness. And he knows. He knows you are mine." The admission hangs in the air. A stark, stunning confession. You are mine. Not my asset or my responsibility. Mine. He steps toward me, his eyes blazing. This ends now. He made this personal. He targeted a child. He targeted you. He doesn't touch me, but the intensity of his focus is a physical force, pinning me in place. The distance he has so carefully maintained for the past week is gone, burned away in the heat of his rage. I need your help, Audrey, he says, his voice low and urgent. We are no longer on defense. We are going on offense, and you are the only one who can give me the weapon I need. What weapon? I ask, my mind reeling. The Whisper, he says. Silvio. He's hosting a charity gala tonight, the one Isabella mentioned. He thinks he is untouchable there, surrounded by the city's elite. He will be relaxed. He will be talking. You want me to go there? I ask, incredulous. To a party? With him? Yes, he says. You will be by my side. You will be my guest. And you will listen. You will listen for any word, any name, any hint that can tell me who his inside man is, who is feeding him information from my organization. The attack in the park was too well coordinated. Someone told him you would be there. There is a traitor in my house. The prospect is terrifying, to walk into the lion's den, to stand in the same room as the man who wants me and my son dead. But then I think of Leo's laughing face in the park. I think of the empty-eyed man watching him, and the fear is consumed by the rage. He wants a war. I'll give him one. I lift my chin and meet his fiery gaze. What do I have to wear? A slow, dangerous smile touches Marco's lips. It's the smile of a predator who has just been unleashed. Don't worry, he says. I've already taken care of it. The hours leading up to the gala are a blur of surreal preparation. It feels like being dressed for a sacrifice. Mrs. Petrova, her face a mask of worried resolve, helps me get ready. A professional hairstylist and makeup artist appear, their services clearly summoned by Marco with the same chilling efficiency he applies to everything. They work in silence, transforming me. When they are finished, I look in the mirror and I do not recognize the woman staring back at me. My hair is swept up in an elegant, intricate knot at the nape of my neck. My makeup is subtle but dramatic, making my eyes look larger and my cheekbones sharper. I look formidable. And then Mrs. Petrova unveils the dress. It lies on the bed like a pool of midnight. It's a floor-length gown of deep sapphire blue silk that shifts to black in the shadows. It's simple, elegant, and breathtaking. It has long sleeves, a high neck, and a back that plunges daringly low. It is a dress designed to be armor. He had this made for you, Mrs. Petrova says softly, her voice thick with an emotion I can't quite place. Weeks ago, before the storm, before the kiss, before he knew he would be taking me into battle. He had this dress made for me. The thought sends a shiver down my spine that has nothing to do with fear. When I am dressed, complete with a pair of delicate diamond and sapphire earrings that he left for me, a note simply saying, "Something borrowed," I feel like a queen, or a target. I can't decide which. I say goodbye to Leo, who is already in his pajamas and watching a movie with a bowl of popcorn. I kiss his soft hair, inhaling his scent, anchoring myself in my love for him. Mommy has to go to a work party, I say, my voice steady. I'll be back before you wake up. You look like a princess, he says sleepily. You're my prince, I whisper, my heart aching. When I walk out into the living room, Marco is waiting. He is dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. He looks like a fallen angel, beautiful and damned. He turns as I approach, and he stops dead. His eyes rake over me, from the top of my head to the hem of my gown. The air leaves his lungs in a soft, audible rush. For a long, silent moment, he just looks at me, and his face is stripped of all its armor. I see wonder, I see possession, I see a raw, aching desire that mirrors my own. Audrey, he breathes, the single word a prayer and a curse. He crosses the room and stops in front of me. He lifts a hand, as if to touch my face, but lets it drop. The control he exerts is immense. "You are magnificent," he says, his voice rough. "It's just a dress," I say, my voice shakier than I'd like. "No," he says, his eyes locking with mine. "It's you." He holds out his arm. "Are you ready?" "No," I say honestly, "but let's go anyway." A ghost of a smile touches his lips. I take his arm, and the contact is electric. The warmth of his body, the solid muscle beneath the fine fabric of his suit, is a grounding force. We ride the elevator down in silence. The tension is a living thing between us. This is not a date. This is a mission. But my body doesn't know the difference. My heart is pounding for a dozen different reasons, all of them centered on the man standing beside me. The gala is being held at a museum on the Upper East Side. The entrance is a swarm of paparazzi and elegantly dressed people. As we step out of the car, flashes erupt. I flinch, but Marco's hand tightens on my arm, a steady, reassuring pressure. He guides me through the throng with an effortless authority, the crowd parting before him like the Red Sea. Inside, the museum's grand hall has been transformed. Crystal chandeliers glitter, champagne flows, and a string quartet plays softly in the corner. The air is thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the murmur of powerful people making powerful conversation. And then I see him, holding court near the grand staircase. He looks like an older, softer version of Marco. His hair is silver, his face less sharp, his smile more practiced. But his eyes are the same, dark and intelligent, but lacking the fire of Marco's. They are cold. He is talking to a senator and his wife, a champagne flute held delicately in his hand. This is Silvio D'Amato, the man who murdered his own nephew, the man who tried to have my son kidnapped. "He's here," I murmur to Marco. "I see him," Marco says, his voice a low growl. "Stay close to me. Do not speak to him unless I tell you to. Just listen. Watch who he talks to. Watch who watches him." We begin to circulate. Marco is greeted by dozens of people, business tycoons, politicians, socialites. He is polite, but distant, his eyes constantly scanning the room. I am the object of intense curiosity. I can feel their eyes on me, hear their whispered questions. Who is she? Marco introduces me simply as my guest, Audrey. The lack of a last name or a title only fuels their speculation. I feel like an imposter, a fraud in my borrowed jewels and designer gown. But then I catch Marco's eye, and he gives me a nearly imperceptible nod of encouragement. It's enough. I lift my chin. I am not here to impress these people. I am here to protect my son. An hour passes. My ears are straining to catch snippets of conversation over the music and the chatter. I listen to talk of stocks, of politics, of summer homes in the Hamptons. Nothing. Then, Silvio begins to move toward us. My body tenses. "Marco! My boy!" he exclaims, his smile wide and false. He embraces Marco, who stands rigid and unmoving. "I am so glad you could make it. I was beginning to think you were angry with me." "Uncle Silvio," Marco says, his voice dangerously smooth. "I am never too busy for family." Silvio's eyes slide to me, and his smile becomes predatory. "And you have brought a friend. How wonderful. Marco is usually so solitary." He takes my hand and lifts it to his lips, his eyes never leaving mine. His touch is dry and cold, like a snake's skin. I have to fight the urge to snatch my hand away. "Audrey Lawson," I say, my voice steady, using my full name as a small act of defiance. "A pleasure, my dear," he says, his gaze lingering a moment too long. He sees a threat, or an opportunity. "You must be very special to have captured my nephew's attention." Before I can respond, Isabella, the redhead from the penthouse, appears at Silvio's side, clinging to his arm. She is wearing a blood-red dress, and her eyes are full of venom as she looks at me. "Uncle darling, don't waste your time," she says, her voice a poisonous purr. "She's just the charity case of the month." "Isabella, be polite. Silvio chides gently, but his eyes are twinkling with malice. He is enjoying this. Marco steps forward, placing himself slightly in front of me. "My guest's comfort is my only concern, Uncle," he says, his voice dropping a full octave. "And right now, this conversation is making her uncomfortable." It's a dismissal, a clear public declaration. You are not welcome near her. Silvio's smile tightens. Of course. Forgive an old man's curiosity." He pats Marco's shoulder. "We must talk later, nephew, about the future of the family." He steers Isabella away, but as he turns, he catches the eye of another man across the room. It's a fleeting glance, but it's charged with meaning, a nod, a confirmation. The man is nondescript, middle-aged, balding, in a well-tailored but unremarkable suit. He looks like an accountant or a lawyer. He is holding a drink and talking to someone else, but his attention was, for a split second, entirely on Silvio. "The man Silvio just looked at," I whisper to Marco, keeping my face forward, a polite smile fixed on my lips. "By the pillar, balding, gray suit." Marco's eyes flicker in that direction, his expression unchanging. "I see him. That's Lorenzo Gallo, my father's consigliere. He stayed on after my father died. He's been with the family for 40 years. Lorenzo Gallo, a trusted advisor, a man who would have access to everything, Marco's schedule, his security arrangements, the knowledge of a last-minute trip to the park. There is a traitor in my house." "He's the one," I say, a cold certainty settling in my gut. Marco is silent for a moment, his jaw tight. "I need to be sure." As if on cue, Lorenzo detaches himself from his conversation and begins to walk toward the terrace doors. "Follow him," Marco says, his voice a low command in my ear. "Go to the terrace, pretend you need some air, see if he makes a call. I will create a distraction." My heart leaps into my throat. "Alone?" "You won't be alone," he says, his hand squeezing my arm. "I will be right behind you." He turns and deliberately bumps into a waiter, sending a tray of champagne glasses crashing to the floor. The sudden noise and commotion draws every eye in the room. In the chaos, I slip away, my heart hammering against my ribs. I push through the heavy glass doors onto the terrace. The night air is cold, a welcome shock after the heat of the party. The terrace is mostly empty, a few couples murmuring in the shadows. And there, at the far end, leaning against the balustrade, is Lorenzo Gallo. He has his back to me, a phone pressed to his ear. He is speaking in a low, urgent voice. In Italian. I move closer, pretending to admire the view of the city, my silk dress whispering against the stone floor. I strain to hear his words over the sound of the traffic below. "The plan failed," Lorenzo is saying, his voice tight with frustration. "The woman was there. She saw my man. D'Amato has her with him now at the gala." He listens for a moment, his posture rigid. "No, he does not suspect me," he says. "He is a fool, blinded by the girl. He thinks his uncle is acting alone. He has no idea how deep this goes. Yes, we move to the backup plan, tonight, while he is here. The boy is in the penthouse. There is only a skeleton crew guarding him. My men are in position. By the time he gets back, it will be over. We will have the leverage we need to force his hand." A wave of pure, absolute terror washes over me, so strong it makes my knees weak. They are going for Leo, now. Lorenzo ends the call and turns. He sees me. For a split second, there is shock on his face. Then his expression hardens into one of cold, ruthless calculation. He knows that I heard. "You should not have heard that, Miss Lawson," he says, his voice chillingly calm as he takes a step toward me. I back away, my heel catching on the hem of my dress. I stumble, my hand flying to the stone balustrade to steady myself. "Stay away from me," I say, my voice trembling. "I'm afraid I can't do that," he says, advancing on me. "You've become a liability, a loose end that needs to be tied up, permanently." He lunges for me. I scream, a raw, primal sound of terror. I twist away, and his hand only manages to grab the sleeve of my dress. The silk rips. He lunges again, and this time his hands close around my throat. His grip is like iron. Black spots dance in my vision. I claw at his hands, but it's useless. He is surprisingly strong. "A pity," he rasps, his face contorted with effort. "Marco will be so upset." Just as the world begins to go dark, a black shadow detaches itself from the doorway. "Gallo!" Marco's voice is a roar of pure fury. Lorenzo's head whips around, his grip faltering for a fraction of a second. It's all I need. I bring my knee up with all my strength, connecting with his groin. He howls in pain, doubling over, his hands dropping from my throat. I scramble away, gasping for air, my lungs burning. Marco is on him in an instant. It's not a fight. It's an execution. He moves with a terrifying, brutal grace. A single, powerful blow sends Lorenzo crashing to the ground. Before the traitor can even react, Marco is hauling him to his feet, slamming him against the stone balustrade. The sound of bone hitting stone makes me flinch. "You put your hands on her!" Marco snarls, his voice a guttural sound of pure rage. He holds the older man half over the edge of the terrace, the city lights twinkling 1,000 feet below. "Marco, wait!" Lorenzo chokes out, his face white with terror. "It was Silvio. It was all Silvio." "You lie," Marco says, his voice deadly calm. "You targeted my son." The terrace doors burst open, and Julian and 2 other guards appear. They take in the scene in a glance. "Julian," Marco says, his voice like ice. "Take out the trash. Find out who he was talking to. Find out where his men are. Now." Julian and his men haul the terrified, blubbering Lorenzo away. The moment they are gone, Marco turns to me. He crosses the terrace in 2 strides, his face a mask of anguish and fury. "He hurt you," he says, his voice raw. He gently touches the bruises already forming on my neck. His touch is feather light, but I flinch away, still shaking. The sight of his raw violence, even on my behalf, was terrifying. He drops his hand as if burned, his expression shuddering. "Audrey, They're going after Leo." I choke out, the words tumbling over each other. "Now. While we're here. Lorenzo's men. They're at the penthouse." The color drains from his face. The fury is replaced by a cold, sharp dread that mirrors my own. He pulls out his phone, his hands moving with lightning speed. "Julian, get the car. Code red. Full tactical response at the penthouse. Now." He grabs my hand, his grip like steel. "We have to go." He pulls me back through the party, a whirlwind of black tuxedo and sapphire silk. We don't walk. We run. The astonished faces of the city's elite are a blur. We leave a wake of dropped glasses and shocked gasps. I hear Silvio calling after us, his voice laced with false concern. We don't stop. We don't look back. There is only one thing in the world that matters: getting back to my son. The ride back to the penthouse is a silent, high-speed nightmare. The city lights blur into streaks of neon. Marco drives with a focused, terrifying intensity, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I sit beside him, my hands clenched in my lap, the torn silk of my dress a stark reminder of how close I came to death. But my own fear is a distant echo compared to the roaring terror I feel for Leo. My mind plays a horrifying loop of Lorenzo's words. My men are in position. By the time he gets back, it will be over. "Mrs. Petrova is with him," I whisper, as if saying it aloud will make it true, will make her a shield. "She is," Marco says, his voice tight. "And 2 of my best men are on that floor. But Lorenzo knew the security rotation. He knew their exact positions. He knows he underestimated the betrayal. He knows he left a vulnerability, and that vulnerability is my son. The guilt and fury radiating from him are a palpable force in the small space of the car. He's on the phone with Julian, who is in another car just behind us, coordinating the response. The conversation is a clipped, coded language of violence. "Secure the perimeter. No exit. Subdue. Do not kill. I want them alive. Find out what they know." We screech to a halt in the underground garage, The doors to the private elevator are already open, held by 2 of Marco's men armed with tactical rifles. We step inside, and the ascent is the longest minute of my life. My heart is a wild drum against my ribs. I can't breathe. Please be okay. Please be okay. Please be okay. The words are a frantic prayer in my mind. The elevator doors slide open, and we step not into the quiet, opulent penthouse, but into a war zone. The grand living room is in chaos. Furniture is overturned. A priceless vase is shattered on the marble floor. 2 of Lorenzo's men are on the ground, subdued and being zip-tied by Marco's security team. And near the floating staircase, Julian stands over a 3rd intruder, his gun trained on him. Mrs. Petrova is huddled behind him, her face pale, but her eyes blazing with fierce defiance. She is holding a heavy iron skillet like a weapon. My eyes scan the room frantically, searching for the one person I need to see. "Leo!" I scream, my voice raw with panic. "Here!" The small voice comes from beneath the grand piano. I run, my heels skidding on the slick floor. I drop to my knees and peer into the shadows. He's huddled there, his small body trembling. He's clutching a small, carved wooden bird. "Leo, baby," I sob, reaching for him. He scrambles out and throws himself into my arms, burying his face in my neck. I hold him, rocking him back and forth, my body shaking with relief so profound it feels like pain. He's safe. He's unharmed. "They were bad men," he whispers into my shoulder. "But Mrs. Petrova hit one with her pan." I look over at the housekeeper, who is now being helped to a chair by one of Marco's men. She gives me a shaky, triumphant smile. My ally, my fierce, brave ally. Marco is standing over the man Julian has captured. His face is a mask of cold, controlled fury. "Where is Silvio?" he demands. The man spits on the floor. "Go to hell, D'Amato." Marco looks at Julian and gives a single, sharp nod. Julian holsters his weapon and hauls the man into the library, closing the heavy wooden doors behind them. I don't want to know what will happen in there. Marco crosses the room to me and Leo. He kneels down, his tuxedo now looking out of place amidst the violence. His eyes, when they meet mine, are filled with a storm of emotions. Relief, guilt, and a terrifying, protective rage. He reaches out, not to me, but to Leo. He gently touches my son's hair. "Are you okay, Leo?" he asks, his voice rough. Leo peeks at him from the safety of my arms and nods. He holds up the small wooden bird. "You gave me this," he says. I look at the bird. It's beautifully carved, simple and elegant. I've never seen it before. "My mother gave it to me," Marco says, his voice thick, "to keep me safe during storms." He gave my son his own childhood talisman. The realization hits me with the force of a tidal wave. This goes beyond protection. This goes beyond a debt owed. This is care. This is love, in the only way he knows how to show it. Julian emerges from the library, his face grim. "They're talking," he says to Marco. "Silvio isn't at the gala anymore. He went to the docks. Pier 4. He has a boat waiting. He's planning to run." Marco stands up, his entire demeanor shifting. The brief moment of vulnerability is gone, replaced by the cold focus of a hunter. "He won't get that far," he says. He looks at me, his eyes burning with intensity. "Stay here. Lock this place down. No one gets in or out until I get back." He turns to leave, but I grab his arm. "Marco, wait!" He stops, looking down at my hand on his sleeve. "Be careful," I whisper. The words are hopelessly inadequate. He covers my hand with his own, his grip warm and firm. "He threatened my family," he says, his voice a low, deadly promise. "I am going to end this, for good." He looks from me to Leo, and in that one look, he says everything he can't put into words. "You are my family." Then he is gone, sweeping out of the penthouse with Julian and his team, a force of righteous fury heading into the night. I am left in the wreckage of the battle, holding my son, my heart in my throat. The external threat, the physical danger, is now in Marco's hands, but the internal battle, the one raging in my own heart, is just beginning. The man who just walked out that door is a killer, a mob boss, a creature of violence and darkness, and I am hopelessly, terrifyingly in love with him. The silence that descends after Marco leaves is heavier than any sound. Mrs. Petrova, bless her warrior heart, gets a first aid kit and gently tends to the bruises on my neck. Her touch is firm and comforting. Leo, exhausted by terror and adrenaline, finally falls asleep in my arms on the sofa. I sit there for what feels like an eternity, watching the city lights, my mind a chaotic whirlwind. The events of the night play over and over. Lorenzo's cold eyes, the feel of his hands on my throat, the terrifying sound of Marco's rage, the profound relief of holding Leo safe in my arms. The threat is no longer abstract. It's real and it's personal. Silvio and Lorenzo didn't just want Marco dead. They were willing to use and discard my son to achieve their goals. The fury I felt earlier returns, a cold, hard knot in my stomach. They underestimated me. They saw me as a weakness, a pawn. They didn't realize that a mother protecting her child is the most dangerous force on earth. And Marco, he saw it. He understood it. He threatened my family. The words echo in my mind. He has claimed me, claimed us, in the most absolute way possible. He has drawn a line in the sand, and we are on his side of it. I look down at Leo's sleeping face, his eyelashes dark against his pale skin. He is my world. And Marco, for all his darkness, has become the fierce, terrifying guardian of that world. My feelings for him are a tangled mess of gratitude, fear, and a deep, aching desire that I can no longer deny. I love him. The thought is both a liberation and a death sentence. How can I love a man like him? How can I not? The sun is beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gray when the elevator doors open. Marco steps out. He looks like he has been to hell and back. His tuxedo is rumpled, his bow tie is gone, and there is a cut on his cheekbone. He is spattered with something dark that I pray is not blood, but I know it is. He looks utterly exhausted, but he is standing. He is alive. He stops when he sees me and Leo on the couch. His eyes, shadowed with fatigue, soften. He crosses the room slowly, his footsteps heavy. "It's over," he says, his voice raw. "Silvio?" I ask, my voice barely a whisper. "He will not be a problem anymore," Marco says, and the finality in his tone leaves no room for questions. Silvio is gone. Lorenzo is gone. The threat has been neutralized. He sinks down onto the edge of the coffee table in front of me, his posture slumping with a weariness that seems bone deep. He looks at Leo, sleeping peacefully, and a profound sadness enters his eyes. "This world, my world, it is no place for a child," he says, his voice filled with self-loathing. "It's no place for you. The moment I have been dreading is here. The danger is gone. The debt is paid. The reason for my presence in his life has been erased. I am free to go. The cage door is open." "I brought this into your life, Audrey," he continues, his gaze fixed on his hands. He won't look at me. "Your quiet life, your struggles, they were your own. But you were safe from this. I put you in danger. I put him in danger. You also saved us," I say softly. "Tonight, and every day since I met you." "I am the reason you needed saving," he shoots back, his voice harsh. He finally looks up at me, and his eyes are filled with a desperate, painful plea. "You should go. I'll set you up somewhere. Anywhere you want to go. A new life. You and Leo will be safe, financially secure. You'll never have to worry about anything again. You can forget any of this ever happened. You can forget me." He is offering me the one thing I thought I wanted more than anything, an escape, a way back to a normal life, a clean slate. I look at him, at this powerful, broken man, who is willing to tear his own heart out to give me a life he thinks I deserve. The man who taught my son that thunder was just the sky rearranging its furniture. The man who gave him a talisman from his own lost childhood. The man who looked at me in a sapphire dress and saw not an object, but me. And I know, with an absolute certainty that settles deep in my bones, that a normal life, a safe life, a life without him, is not a life I want anymore. No, I say. He flinches as if I'd struck him. What? No, I repeat, my voice stronger now. I gently lay a sleeping Leo down on the couch cushions and stand up. I move to stand in front of him, forcing him to look up at me. I'm not going anywhere. Audrey, you don't understand, he says, standing up to face me, his voice laced with frustration. I am not a good man. This life, it will stain you. It will break you. My life was already broken, Marco, I say, my voice trembling but firm. I was drowning. I was invisible. You want to talk about stains? This world of yours is violent and it's terrifying. But it's also the first place I have felt truly seen in years. It's the first place I have felt alive. I reach up and gently touch the cut on his cheek. He stills, his eyes closing for a brief moment. I am not the fragile charity case you and Isabella seem to think I am, I say, my voice dropping to a whisper. I am a survivor. I am a mother. And I am not afraid of your darkness, Marco. I think I've been living in a different kind of darkness for a very long time. He opens his eyes, and they are shining with an emotion so raw, so vulnerable, it takes my breath away. Don't you get it? I say, my heart aching for him, for us. You can't send me away. It's too late. I'm already home. A single tear escapes his eye and traces a path through the grime on his cheek. He raises a shaky hand and cups my face, his thumb stroking my skin. Audrey, he whispers, his voice breaking. To love me is to stand in the line of fire. Then let me be your shield, I whisper back. And that's it. That's the final surrender. Not my surrender to him, but his to us. He pulls me to him, crushing me in an embrace that is not about passion or desire, but about a desperate, profound need. He buries his face in my hair, and I can feel the tremors that run through his powerful frame. I wrap my arms around him, holding him together, anchoring him. The original arrangement, the transactional nature of our relationship, is gone, burned to ash in the fires of the last 24 hours. This is something new. A new pact. A choice. He pulls back just enough to look at me, his hands framing my face. I love you, he says, the words torn from the deepest part of his soul. It is not a declaration. It is a confession. I know, I say, a smile finally breaking through my own tears. I love you too. He kisses me then. It is not like the first kiss in the storm, fierce with desperation. It is not like the fantasy kisses I have imagined. It is a kiss of homecoming. It is quiet and deep and filled with the promise of 1,000 sunrises after a long, dark night. It is a kiss that says, we survived. When he finally lifts his head, the first rays of the morning sun are streaming through the glass walls, bathing the ruined living room in a soft, golden light. It illuminates the wreckage, but it also promises a new day. He looks around the room at the signs of the battle, and then his gaze settles on Leo, sleeping peacefully amidst the chaos. We will need a new home, he says, his voice filled with a resolve that is no longer just about him, but about us. Somewhere safe. Somewhere with a garden. A garden. The thought is so simple, so beautiful, it makes my heart ache. A garden for Leo to play in. A home, not a fortress. He keeps one arm wrapped around me, pulling me against his side as we both look at our son. We are a strange, unlikely portrait. The Mafia king, the single mom, and the little boy who brought them together, standing in the dawn of a new, dangerous, and beautiful life. The path forward will not be easy. His world is still his world, but I am no longer his captive. I am his partner, his queen. And together, we will face whatever darkness comes, not as a king and his liability, but as a family. He leans down and kisses the top of my head. "Let's go put our son to bed," he says softly. And as we walk toward the bedroom, with Leo cradled safely in his strong arms, I know that for the first time in a very long time, everything is going to be okay. We are home,